The little girl shouldn't have been outside in the rain. Not in her condition. But there she was, sitting on the cold pavement near Trafalgar Square, a cardboard sign propped against her thin legs. The sign was getting wet, the words bleeding into each other, but you could still read them. Original paintings. Should each. Saving for treatment. She was maybe 10 years old, maybe younger. Hard to tell. The chemotherapy had stolen her hair, left her pale as paper, made her look like a ghost of childhood rather than a child. A knitted blue cap sat crooked on her head. Her jacket was too big. Her hands shook as she tried to arrange her paintings on the wet ground. Around her, London moved at its usual pace. Thousands of people, briefcases and umbrellas, coffee cups and phone calls. Everyone rushing somewhere. Everyone important. Everyone too busy to notice a dying girl selling hope on a street corner. Almost everyone. The paintings were surprisingly good. Watercolors mostly. London scenes. Big Ben through fog. The Thames at sunset. A red telephone booth in the rain. Each one small, maybe the size of a book, but filled with detail. Filled with the kind of observation that comes from someone who's learned to notice. Beauty because they're afraid they won't see it much longer. A man walked past. Glanced down. Kept walking. A woman slowed. Looked at the sign. Looked at the girl's bald head under the wet cap. Then hurried away as if sadness was contagious. The girl didn't call out to them. Didn't beg. Just sat there, rain soaking through her too big jacket. Carefully wiping water off her paintings with a cloth that was already drenched. She'd been there for 3 hours. Sold nothing. If you love stories about unexpected heroes and moments that restore your faith in humanity, subscribe now. You won't want to miss what happens next. Now, back to the story. The girl's name was Emma. Emma Hartley. 9 years old. Diagnosed with leukemia 18 months ago. The NHS covered most of her treatment. But her mother had read about a new trial in Germany. Experimental. Expensive. A chance, maybe, at more than just survival. A chance at actually living. The trial cost £30,000. Money they didn't have. Money they'd never have. So Emma painted. Every day when she had energy, she painted. Her mother worked 2 jobs. Her father had left when the diagnosis came. Some people can't handle watching their children die. He was one of them. Emma didn't blame him. She didn't blame anyone. She just painted. Today was Saturday. The best day for tourists. The best day for sales. Her mother was working a double shift at the care home. Emma had promised to stay inside, rest, maybe watch a movie. Instead, she'd taken the tube into the city. Brought her paintings. Set up her little spot near the square where people came to see the lions and the fountains. And take photos they'd never look at again. She needed to contribute. Needed to help. Needed to matter. The rain got heavier. Emma's hands were so cold she could barely feel them. She tried to pack up her paintings, protect them from the water, but her fingers wouldn't cooperate. Clumsy, numb. One painting slipped from her grasp. The wind caught it. Sent it skittering across the wet pavement toward the street. Emma lunged for it. Her weak legs gave out. She fell hard on the concrete, scraping her palms, pain shooting through her knees. The painting kept moving, sliding toward the busy road where black cabs and red buses roared past in both directions. She crawled after it. Cars honked. Someone shouted. Emma reached the edge of the curb, stretched her arm out as far as it would go. A boot stepped on the painting. Stopped it. Emma looked up. The man was tall, very tall. He wore a red ceremonial uniform, the kind the royal guards wear. Perfect posture. Serious face. He must have been walking past off-duty maybe, because guards don't usually walk around the city in full uniform. He bent down, picked up the painting carefully, looked at it, then looked at Emma, still on her hands and knees on the wet pavement, shivering, crying, trying not to cry. "This is yours?" he asked. His voice was deep but gentle. Emma nodded, couldn't speak. Too cold, too tired, too embarrassed. The man helped her to her feet with one hand, steadied her. His grip was strong but careful, like he was used to handling things that might break. He walked her back to her spot, looked at the other paintings, looked at the soggy cardboard sign, looked at Emma's pale face and her shaking hands and her too big jacket. "How much?" he asked. £10 each," Emma whispered. The man knelt down. "I level with her now. How many do you have?" 23, he nodded slowly. Reached into his uniform pocket, pulled out his wallet. What happened next would change everything. The man pulled out £230, counted it carefully, handed it to Emma. "For all of them," he said simply. Emma stared at the money. Her hands wouldn't move to take it. This didn't happen. People didn't do this. Especially not two sick girls sitting in the rain selling paintings nobody wanted. "I can't," she whispered. "Why not?" "It's too much." The man smiled slightly. First time his serious face had changed. "The paintings are worth it. And besides, I need them. Need them. I have a very empty flat. These will help." He pressed the money into her cold hands. "Take it, please." Emma's fingers closed around the bills. Wet, crumpled, but real. £230. More money than she'd ever held in her life. Tears came. She couldn't stop them. Didn't try. Just cried, while this stranger in a red uniform carefully gathered her paintings, treating each one like it mattered. Like it was art instead of a desperate child's attempt to buy more time. "What's your name?" he asked as he stacked the paintings carefully. "Emma? Emma. I'm Thomas. And I want you to do something for me." She wiped her eyes. "Go home. Get warm. Dry off. And promise me you won't come back out here in this weather. But I know what you need." Thomas's voice was firm but kind. "But you can't help yourself by making yourself sicker. Understood?" Emma nodded. Thomas pulled off his uniform jacket. It was dry underneath somehow, protected by the thick wool. He wrapped it around Emma's shoulders. It swallowed her completely, hung down to her knees, but it was warm. "So warm, keep it." "I have another." He did not. But Emma didn't know that. He flagged down a taxi. Gave the driver money. Gave him Emma's address, which she'd written on the back of her sign. Told him to make sure she got inside safely. "Wait," Emma said as Thomas helped her into the cab. "Why are you doing this?" Thomas was quiet for a moment. His serious face returned, but something painful flickered behind it. "Because someone should have done it for my daughter. But no one did." Before Emma could ask what he meant, Thomas closed the cab door, tapped the roof. The taxi pulled away. Emma watched through the rear window as the tall man in the red uniform stood in the rain, holding 23 wet paintings, getting smaller and smaller until he disappeared. When Emma got home, her mother was already there. Early, the care home had sent her away because she'd been crying at work, unable to focus. Crying because they were £300 short this month. £300 away from making the next payment on Emma's treatment. She saw Emma walk in wearing a military jacket 3 sizes too big, soaked to the bone, and her face went white. "Emma, where were you? I told you to stay home." Emma pulled out the money, £230. Held it up. Her mother stared. "Where did you get that?" "I sold my paintings. All of them." Her mother's face crumpled. She pulled Emma close, jacket and all. And they cried together in the doorway. Relief, fear, gratitude, all mixed together into something too big for words. That night, Emma's mother called the treatment center, made the payment. They were still short £70, but the center said it was close enough. They could pay the rest next month. Emma's next round of treatment was scheduled. She'd get to continue Dodd. Emma went to bed that night, wrapped in Thomas's too big jacket. Smelled like wool and rain and something else. Something like safety. She didn't know his last name. Didn't know where he lived. Didn't know why he'd helped her or what he'd meant about his daughter, but she knew one thing. She wanted to thank him. Really thank him. Not just with words, with something that mattered. 3 days later, Emma felt strong enough to paint again. She sat up at her small desk by the window, light streaming in. and started working on something different from her usual pieces. She painted a royal guard. Standing tall, serious face. Perfect red uniform. But in the background, barely visible, she painted a small girl holding his hand. A girl who looked like she might be his daughter. A girl who was fading, almost ghost-like, but still there. Still loved. Still remembered it took her 4 days to finish. 4 days of careful brushstrokes, mixing colors until they were exactly right, adding tiny details that most people wouldn't notice, but that made all the difference. When it was done, Emma's mother looked at it and started crying again. She seemed to cry a lot lately, but these were different tears. It's beautiful, sweetheart. But how will you give it to him? We don't know where he is. Emma had thought about that. The palace. He's a royal guard. He works at the palace. Emma, we can't just go to Buckingham Palace and ask for someone named Thomas. Do you know how many guards work there? Emma didn't, but she knew she had to try. The following Saturday, when Emma had energy again, she and her mother took the tube to Buckingham Palace. Emma wore her blue knitted cap and carried the painting, wrapped carefully in brown paper. They stood outside the gates with hundreds of tourists. Cameras flashing, people posing with the guards who stood perfectly still, faces blank, forward, professional, distant, untouchable. Emma scanned every face. Looking for Thomas? Looking for the man who'd saved her life for £230? He wasn't there. They came back the next day. And the next. And the next. A week passed. No Thomas. Emma started to lose hope. Maybe he didn't really work there. Maybe he'd been on his way to some ceremonial event somewhere else. Maybe she'd never find him. On the 8th day, something changed. Emma and her mother arrived at the palace just as the changing of the guard ceremony was beginning. The crowd was massive. Tourists pressed against the gates, phones held high. Everyone trying to capture the perfect video of British tradition. The guards marched in formation. Red uniforms brilliant in the autumn sun. Bearskin hats tall and imposing. Movements precise. Every step synchronized. Every turn exact. Emma's mother held her hand tight so they wouldn't get separated in the crowd. Emma clutched her wrapped painting to her chest with her free hand, eyes scanning every guard's face. Then she saw him. 3rd row. Left side, taller than the others. Same serious face. Same perfect posture. Thomas. Ma'am, that's him. Emma tried to point, but the crowd pushed and shifted. Are you sure? I'm sure. But the ceremony continued. The guards marched. Rotated positions. Stood at attention. Emma couldn't get near them. Couldn't call out. The crowd was too loud, too thick. It's focused on taking photos. When the ceremony ended, the guards dispersed to their posts. Thomas walked to a position near the front gate. Stood perfectly still. Face forward. Eyes seeing nothing and everything at once. Emma and her mother pushed through the crowd. Got as close to the fence as possible. Thomas. Emma called. Nothing. No reaction. Guards weren't supposed to react. Part of the training. Part of the tradition. Thomas, please. It's Emma. Still nothing. But something flickered in his eyes. Just for a second. Recognition, maybe? Or maybe Emma imagined it. A palace official approached them. A stern-looking woman in a dark suit. Miss, you can't shout at the guards. Please step back. But I need to talk to him. He helped me. I need to thank him. The woman's expression didn't soften. The guards are on duty. They cannot respond to the public. Please step back or I'll have to ask you to leave. Emma's mother pulled her back gently. Come on, sweetheart. We'll find another way. Emma felt tears building. She'd come so close. He was right there. Right there. But she couldn't reach him. As they turned to leave, Emma made a decision. She walked back to the fence. Carefully placed the wrapped painting on the ground near the gate, propped against the iron bars. Took a piece of paper from her pocket note she'd written just in case, and placed it on top. The note read, For Thomas. Thank you for saving my life. From Emma, then she walked away, her mother's arm around her shoulders. Thomas stood at his post. Didn't move, didn't look down. But he'd heard Emma's voice. Recognized it immediately. The little girl from the rain. The girl with the paintings. His chest tightened. He wanted to break position. Wanted to turn and acknowledge her. Wanted to tell her she didn't need to thank him. That helping her had helped him in ways she couldn't understand. But duty held him still. Training held him silent. 2 hours later, when his shift ended and the next guard took his position, Thomas finally moved. Walked to the gate. Picked up the wrapped package and the note. He read Emma's words. Read them twice. 3 times in the guard's changing room away from tourists and ceremony, Thomas carefully unwrapped the painting and stopped breathing. It was him. Every detail perfect. His uniform, his posture, his face. But in the background, so subtle most people might miss it, was a little girl. His little girl. Or someone who could have been her. Sarah, his daughter, who'd died 3 years ago. Age 8. Leukemia. They'd tried everything. Sold everything they had. Begged. Borrowed. Nothing was enough. The experimental treatments were too expensive. The trials too far away. Too late. Sarah died in a hospital room holding his hand, telling him it was okay. That he'd done everything he could, but he hadn't. Not everything. There was always more he could have done. Should have done. For 3 years, Thomas had carried that weight. Showed up to work. Stood at his post. Went home to an empty flat. Existed, but didn't live. Then he'd seen Emma in the rain, bald, sick, desperate, selling paintings to save herself, and something broke in him. Or maybe something healed. He couldn't save Sarah, but he could save Emma. Had to save Emma. For Sarah, for himself. For the belief that sometimes second chances exist, even if they come in different forms. Now Emma had painted his daughter into his portrait. Had somehow known, somehow felt, what he'd lost. What he carried, Thomas sat down hard on the bench, held the painting carefully, and cried for the first time since Sarah's funeral. The next morning, Thomas requested to speak with his commanding officer. Asked for an unusual favor. The officer listened, surprised. Thomas never asked for anything. Never broke protocol. Never made personal requests. It's highly irregular, the officer said. I know, sir. But it's important. The officer studied Thomas's face. Saw something there he hadn't seen before. Something almost like hope. All right, I'll allow it. But just this once. That afternoon, Emma received a phone call. Her mother answered, listened, then turned pale. Emma, you need to hear this. Emma took the phone. Hello. Emma, this is Captain Williams from Buckingham Palace. One of our guards would like to meet with you. Privately, if you and your mother are available tomorrow at 2 p.m., we'd like to invite you to the palace. Official visitor status.
Emma's.
Heart hammered. Thomas wants to see me? Yes. He made a special request. Very unusual, but approved given the circumstances. Emma looked at her mother, who was already nodding, tears in her eyes again. We'll be there, Emma said. The next day, Emma wore her best dress. Her mother braided what little hair had started growing back. They took the tube to the palace, both nervous, both excited, both unsure what to expect. At the visitors' entrance, Captain Williams met them personally, led them through corridors tourists never saw. Past offices and meeting rooms and historical paintings worth millions. Finally, they reached a small private room, simple, quiet. A few chairs. A window overlooking the palace gardens. Thomas stood when they entered. Out of uniform now, wearing simple civilian clothes, jeans and a sweater. Looking more human, more vulnerable. Emma, he said quietly. Emma ran to him, hugged him hard. This stranger who'd saved her, this man who understood. Thomas hugged her back, gentle, careful, like she might break. When they finally sat down, Thomas showed Emma the painting, hung now in a simple frame. How did you know? He asked. About my daughter? Emma shrugged. I didn't. Not really. But when you helped me, you looked sad, like you were remembering someone. So I painted what I felt. Face. Thomas's eyes were wet. Her name was Sarah. She was 8. Same as you. Same illness. Emma's mother gasped softly. Understanding now? Understanding everything. I couldn't save her, Thomas continued. We didn't have enough money. Enough time. Enough luck. He looked at Emma directly. But I could save you. Had to save you. You did save me, Emma said. The treatment is working. My doctor says I'm responding well. They think I might beat it. Thomas closed his eyes, relief flooding through him. Good. That's good. What Thomas did next shocked everyone. Thomas reached into his bag, pulled out something wrapped in tissue paper, handed it to Emma. Before you open that, I need to explain something. After Sarah died, people donated to a fund in her name. Friends, family, colleagues. Money meant to help other families facing what we faced. I couldn't touch it, couldn't look at it. It felt wrong somehow. Like accepting it meant accepting she was gone. Emma held the tissue-wrapped package carefully. There's 27,000 pounds in that fund, Thomas continued. Just sitting there, doing nothing, helping no one. He looked at Emma's mother. It should go to Emma. For the German trial, for whatever treatment she needs. Emma's mother stood up so fast, her chair scraped the floor. No, we can't accept that. It's too much. It's Sarah's legacy, Thomas said firmly. And she'd want this. I know she would. She was kind, generous. She loved helping people. His voice cracked. Let her help, Emma, please. Let some good come from what we lost. Emma's mother covered her mouth with both hands, sobbing now. Unable to speak, Emma carefully unwrapped the tissue paper. Inside was a bank book, an account in Sarah's name, and the balance, 27,000 pounds. Also in the package was a photograph. A little girl with a bright smile, dark hair, warm eyes, holding a paintbrush. Sarah. She painted too, Thomas said softly. Not as well as you, but she loved it. Loved colors. Loved creating things. Emma traced the photo with one finger. She's beautiful. She was. Emma looked up at Thomas. This man who'd lost everything and was somehow still finding ways to give. I promise I'll get better. I promise I'll use the money right. Emma, you don't have to promise anything. Just live. That's enough. Just live. But Emma shook her head. No, I want to do more. I want to help other kids like me. Kids who can't afford treatment? Kids selling things in the rain. Her voice got stronger. I want to use Sarah's money to start something. Not just for me. For everyone. Thomas stared at her. This 9-year-old girl, with more courage than most adults he'd known. What do you mean? A fund. A real fund. We use Sarah's money to get me better. And then, when I'm better, I paint more. I sell them. We raise more money. We help other families. We make Sarah's legacy bigger. Emma's mother wiped her eyes. Emma, that's a beautiful idea, but you need to focus on getting well first. I will get well, and then I'll do this. I have to. Emma looked at Thomas. Will you help me? Thomas felt something shift in his chest. Something that had been frozen for 3 years. Purpose, direction. A reason to keep going beyond just duty and routine. Yes, he said. I'll help you. Over the next 6 months, everything changed. Emma traveled to Germany for the trial treatment. Her mother went with her. Thomas visited twice, using vacation days he'd never taken. Emma's response to the treatment was remarkable. Better than doctors hoped. Her cancer markers dropped. Her strength returned. Her hair started growing back. During treatment, when she had energy, Emma painted hospital rooms, German streets, the view from her window, other children in the ward. She painted Hope Thomas, back in London, started organizing. He worked with Sarah's fund administrators, set up a proper charity structure, found lawyers who worked pro bono, Connected with doctors who could advise on which cases to support, he called it Sarah's Canvas, a charity helping children with cancer access treatments they couldn't otherwise afford, with a focus on young artists, kids who created beauty in the face of darkness. Emma's paintings became the charity's first major fundraiser. Thomas had them professionally photographed, created prints, sold them online and at charity events. The story spread. Local news covered it, then national news. The girl who sold paintings in the rain, the guard who saved her. The fund named for his lost daughter. People connected with it. Donated, shared, within 3 months. Sarah's Canvas had raised over £60,000. 8 months after that rainy day in Trafalgar Square, Emma returned to London. In remission, healthy, hair growing in thick and dark, eyes bright, energy restored. She and her mother moved into a better flat. Her mother cut back to one job. They had breathing room, had hope, had a future. Emma started school again, caught up quickly, made friends, did normal kid things. But twice a week, she painted. For Sarah's Canvas. For other children who needed what she'd needed, Thomas visited regularly, became part of their family in a way, not replacing Emma's absent father. Just present, available. A steady hand when things got hard. One afternoon, a year after everything started, Thomas and Emma stood in a small gallery in Chelsea. The walls were covered with paintings, Emma's work, other young artists, all children fighting illness, all creating beauty despite pain. Sarah's Canvas first annual exhibition read the sign above the door. Over 300 people attended, bought paintings, made donations, heard stories, cried, laughed, connected with something real and raw and honest. Emma, now 10 and a half, stood next to a large painting in the center of the gallery, her masterpiece. It showed a city street in the rain, a small girl sitting on the pavement surrounded by paintings, and approaching her, barely visible through the rain, a figure in red. A guard, coming to help. The day everything changed read the small placard beneath it. The painting sold for £5,000. The buyer donated it back to the charity. It now hung in the Sarah's Canvas office. A reminder. A symbol. By the end of the exhibition, they'd raised £42,000. Enough to help 6 more children access experimental treatments, 6 more families who'd been selling possessions, begging, praying for miracles. Thomas stood in the corner, watching Emma talk to reporters, explain her art, shine with health and life and purpose. And he felt Sarah with him, felt her approval, felt her love. She hadn't died for nothing. Her pain hadn't been meaningless. Through Emma, through this charity, through paintings and hope and strangers helping strangers, Sarah was still here, still saving lives, still matrion. Tata found Thomas in the corner, took his hand. She'd be proud, wouldn't she? You're Sarah. Thomas nodded, unable to speak. I think about her every time I paint, every time we help someone. She's there with me, teaching me, helping me. Emma smiled. We're a team. Me and Sarah, we're going to save so many kids. Thomas hugged her. This child who'd given him back his purpose, who'd taken his grief and transformed it into something beautiful. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. 3 weeks after the exhibition, something happened that would test everything they'd built. Emma collapsed during art class at school. One moment she was painting, the next she was on the floor, unconscious, paint water spilling across the tiles. The call came to Thomas at the palace. Emma's mother, voice shaking, barely able to form words. She's at the hospital. They're running tests. Thomas, I'm so scared. Thomas left immediately. Didn't ask permission. Didn't care about protocol. Some things mattered more than duty. He'd learned that lesson. Finally learned it at the hospital. Emma's mother sat in the waiting room, face in her hands. Thomas sat beside her, waited. They didn't speak. Couldn't after 2 hours the doctor came out? Dr. Patel, the same oncologist who'd treated Emma before? His face was serious, professional, but his eyes showed concern. "The cancer's back," he said simply. "Aggressive. Fast-moving. It happens sometimes. The treatment puts it in remission, but it returns stronger." Emma's mother made a sound like she'd been punched. "What do we do?" Thomas asked. His voice steady. "Guard training. Stay calm in crisis. We fight," Dr. Patel said. "But the treatments that worked before might not work now. The cancer's adapted. We need to try something different. More aggressive. More expensive?" He paused. "There's a new immunotherapy trial. Very promising. But it's in America. Boston Children's Hospital. And it costs how much?" Thomas interrupted. £80,000. Maybe more. Insurance won't cover experimental treatments abroad. It would all be private pay." Emma's mother laughed. Horrible sound. Laugh or scream, same difference. "We don't have £80,000. We have nothing. Everything went to Germany. Everything Sarah's canvas raised is committed to other families. We'll find it," Thomas said. "How? How do we find that kind of money in time?" Thomas didn't know, but he knew they had to try. Emma woke up that evening, weak but alert. She knew immediately, could see it in her mother's face. In Thomas's face, "It's back," she said. Not a question. Her mother nodded, tears streaming. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, "How much time?" "Emma, don't how much time without treatment?" Dr. Patel, who'd entered to check on her, answered honestly. 3 months. Maybe 4. Emma nodded. "Processing, and with treatment. The new trial, if it works, excellent chance of long-term remission. Maybe even cure. But we can't afford it." No one answered. They didn't need to. Emma looked at Thomas. "Use Sarah's canvas money." "No," Thomas said immediately. "That money's for other children. 6 families are depending on it. 6 kids will die without it. 7 kids will die if we don't use it," Emma said. Her voice was weak but clear. "Use 6 kids' worth. Save one of them. Do the math." "Emma, I'm serious. 6 families get help. 1 doesn't. That's still 6 more than before. That's still Sarah's legacy." Emma's mother was shaking her head. "We can't do that to other families. We can't take away their hope." "Then we raise more money," Emma said. "Fast? We have, 6 weeks before the trial starts? We raise £80,000 in 6 weeks." Dr. Patel cleared his throat. "Emma, that's not realistic. Neither is a 9-year-old kid starting a charity that raises £100,000 in a year. But I did that." Emma's eyes were fierce despite her weakness. "I'm not giving up, and I'm not taking money from other sick kids. We find another way." Thomas looked at this child, this warrior, this force of nature trapped in a fragile body. "How we make noise. We tell the story. We ask for help. People helped before. They'll help again." Over the next week, while Emma started emergency treatment to slow the cancer's spread, Thomas and Emma's mother launched the most desperate fundraising campaign of their lives. They updated the Sarah's Canvas website with Emma's story, the relapse, the need, the American trial. They were completely transparent about the cost, the timeline, stakes. They reached out to the media outlets that had covered the original story. Some responded. Local news did a follow-up piece. The BBC ran a short segment. Thomas used his connections at the palace. Guards who'd heard Emma's story, officers who'd been moved by Sarah's canvas. They spread the word through military networks, veteran groups, community organizations. Ma. From her hospital bed recorded a video. Weak, but determined. She talked about Sarah, about hope, about not giving up, about how every child deserves a chance to paint their future. The video went viral. Really viral. Millions of views within days. Shared across social media platforms. Emma's face balled again from emergency chemo, pale, but still radiant with determination, became a symbol. The donations started coming. Small amounts mostly. £5, £10, 20. People who didn't have much but wanted to help. Students, pensioners, families, strangers who saw themselves in Emma's fight. After 1 week, £12,000. After 2 weeks, £28,000. After 3 weeks, £45,000. They were getting close. But time was running out. Emma's condition was deteriorating. The emergency chemo wasn't enough. They needed to get to Boston. Needed to start the trial. Then, with 2 weeks left before the trial deadline, the donations suddenly slowed. The viral moment passed. Attention moved on to the next story, the next crisis. The next hashtag, they were stuck at £53,000. Still 27,000 short. Emma's mother cried every night. Thomas stopped sleeping. They'd done everything possible. Everything. And it wasn't enough. One afternoon, Thomas sat in Emma's hospital room while she slept, held her small hand, thought about Sarah, about loss, about how some stories don't have happy endings no matter how hard you fight. Emma stirred, opened her eyes. "You look sad." "I'm fine. You're lying." Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "It's okay, Thomas. You did everything. More than everything. If this is it, I'm okay. Don't say that." "Why not?" "It's true. I got a year. A whole year of being healthy. Of painting. Of helping people. Of mattering. Some kids don't even get that." Thomas's tears fell. Couldn't stop them. "You deserve more than a year. Everyone deserves more time. But we don't always get it." Emma squeezed his hand. "Sarah would say, I made the most of what I had." "Right," she would. "But I'm not ready to lose you. Not after losing her. You won't lose me. I'll be here." Emma touched his chest. "Same place Sarah is. Same place everyone we love lives forever." Emma fell back asleep. Thomas sat there, broken, out of options, out of hope. The next morning, something impossible happened. Thomas arrived at the hospital at 7 a.m. His phone had been ringing. Dozens of calls, messages, emails. Something had happened. Overnight, while he'd finally managed a few hours of sleep, Emma's mother met him in the corridor. Her face was different. Eyes wide, shocked, but not sad. Something else. "Thomas, you need to see this." She showed him her phone, the Sarah's Canvas donation page. The number at the top made Thomas's heart stop. £137,000. "That's impossible," Thomas said. "Yesterday, it was 53,000. "I know. I watched it happen. All night. Just kept going up. I thought the website was broken." Emma's mother scrolled through the donations. "Look at this one. Anonymous donor. £25,000. Another anonymous donor, £15,000. Another. Town 10,000. Dozens of smaller donations. Hundreds of them. Pouring in through the night. From all over the world. UK, Europe, America, Asia, Australia." "What happened?" Thomas asked. Emma's mother showed him another video. Posted late yesterday evening. It had 40 million views. The video showed a young woman, maybe mid-20s, sitting in what looked like a professional studio. Her face was serious, emotional. She had a small painting propped beside her. "One of Emma's paintings." "My name is Sophie Chen," the woman said. 5 years ago, I was 9 years old. I had leukemia. My family couldn't afford treatment. We were desperate. Then someone started a charity. They paid for my treatment. Saved my life." She held up the painting. "This is by Emma Hartley. She's the girl who started Sarah's Canvas. The charity that saved me and 6 other children this year. Now, Emma's cancer is back. She needs help. She needs what she gave others." Sophie's voice broke. "But she won't take the charity money. Won't take it from other kids who need it. That's who Emma is." Sophie leaned closer to the camera. "So I'm asking everyone who's ever been helped by someone, everyone who's ever been saved by a stranger, everyone who believes that kindness deserves kindness back, help Emma, please. She painted hope for so many people. Let's paint hope for her." The video had been picked up by major news outlets. shared by celebrities, reposted endlessly. And people had responded, not just with donations, with stories. Thousands of comments from people Emma had helped, directly or indirectly. She bought my daughter's paintings when we were desperate. Her charity paid for my son's treatment. I was inspired by her story. Started my own fundraiser for local families. Showed me that one person can make a difference. Emma had touched more lives than anyone realized. And now, those lives were touching back. Dr. Patel came to Emma's room that morning with good news. We can book the trial. You have the funds. We can start arrangements today. Emma, awake now, looked at Thomas and her mother. How? They showed her. The donations. The video. The outpouring of support. The hundreds of thousands of people who'd been moved by her story, her courage, her refusal to give up. Emma cried. Happy tears this time. Sophie's alive. The girl we helped first, she's alive. Because of you, Thomas said. And now she's saving you back.
How?
Emma shook her head. Sarah's saving me. This is all her legacy. It just keeps spreading and spreading. 2 weeks later, Emma and her mother flew to Boston. Thomas took leave. Went with them. Wasn't letting Emma face this alone. The trial was brutal. Stronger treatment than before. Emma lost weight. Lost energy. Spent weeks in the hospital hooked to machines, fighting a battle no child should have to fight. But she fought. Every day. Every treatment. Every setback. She fought. Thomas visited her every day. Brought art supplies. Sat with her while she painted when she had energy. Read to her when she didn't. Just stayed. Just showed up. 3 months into treatment, the cancer markers started dropping. The tumors began shrinking. Emma's body was responding. Really responding. By month 5, Emma was in remission. Real remission. The kind doctors called undetectable. The kind that meant cure was possible. By month 7, Emma was painting again. Real painting. With color and energy and hope, they returned to London 10 months after leaving. Emma was different. Older, thinner, but stronger in ways that had nothing to do with physical strength. Sarah's canvas had grown during their absence. The viral moment had brought in donations and volunteers and attention. They'd helped 23 more families. Expanded to include not just cancer treatment, but art therapy programs, grief counseling. Support groups.ma became the face of it all. The living proof that hope worked, that fighting mattered, that strangers helping strangers could change everything. She was 12 now. Back in school, hair grown back, energy restored. Life stretching ahead of her in ways it hadn't before. One afternoon, Emma and Thomas visited Sarah's grave together. A small cemetery in North London. Quiet, peaceful. They placed fresh flowers. Emma placed one of her paintings too, a new one. It showed 3 girls holding hands. Sarah, Sophie, Emma. Different ages, different times. But connected? Forever connected by love and loss and hope. Thank you, Emma said to the grave. To Sarah, thank you for sharing your dad. Thank you for the money. Thank you for the idea. Thank you for everything. Thomas put his arm around Emma's shoulders. She'd love you, you know, if she'd met you. You two would have been best friends. We are best friends. Just because I never met her doesn't mean I don't know her. She's with me all the time, teaching me, helping me, loving me. Thomas looked at his daughter's grave, at the girl beside him who could have been his daughter, at the impossible, beautiful tragedy that had brought meaning back to his life. I spent 3 years standing at my post, Thomas said quietly. After Sarah died, I just stood there, going through motions, existing. Then I met you in the rain, and everything changed. Because you changed it. You saved me. No, Emma, you saved me. You showed me that loss doesn't have to be the end, that pain can turn into purpose. That standing guard is good, but standing with people is better. Emma hugged him. This man who'd become family, who'd shown her that strangers could become fathers. That duty could look like love. That one moment of kindness could ripple forward forever. 5 years later, Sarah's canvas had helped over 300 families, raised millions, changed laws, influenced policy, made experimental treatments more accessible. Emma was 17. In remission for 6 years, painting professionally, speaking at conferences, writing a book, living the life Sarah never got to live, but living it for both of them. For all the children who didn't make it, for all the families still fighting, Thomas retired from the palace at 60, became Sarah's canvas full-time director. His apartment was no longer empty, filled with paintings now. Emma's, Sarah's, others, filled with color and life and meaning. One evening, at a Sarah's Canvas Gala, Emma stood to speak. Hundreds of people in attendance. Donors, families, survivors, supporters. She told the story. The rain, the paintings, the guard in red, the 230 pounds that became millions, the girl who died, the girl who lived, the legacy that kept growing. 3 things saved my life, Emma said. Medicine, money, and love. The medicine came from doctors. The money came from strangers. But the love came from a man who'd lost everything and still found the courage to give. She looked at Thomas, sitting in the front row. Thomas Whitmore taught me that duty isn't about standing in one place. It's about showing up for people who need you, about turning pain into purpose, about choosing connection over isolation. Emma held up a painting, her latest piece. It showed a rainy city street, a small girl, a tall guard, a moment of connection that changed lives, that changed hundreds of lives. This is where it started, Emma said. With one person stopping, one person seeing, one person caring. She smiled. That's all it takes. That's all any of us need to do. Stop, see, care. The rest happens naturally. The painting sold that night for £50,000. Emma donated every penny to the charity, to help more children, to spread more hope, to prove that Sarah's love passed through Thomas, passed through Emma, could keep spreading forever. That night, Thomas stood outside the gallery, watching London move past. The same city where he'd met Emma 6 years ago, where she'd been dying on a rainy street corner, where he'd been dying in a different way, grief-stricken and lost. Emma joined him. 17 now, but still small, still fierce, still painting hope. Thank you, Thomas said. For everything? For what? For letting me save you, for saving me back, for making Sarah's death mean something. Emma took his hand. Sarah's death meant something the moment she existed, just like every life means something. We just made sure everyone knew it. They stood together, watching the city. 2 lives bound by tragedy, transformed by choice. Connected by love, the rain started falling, soft, gentle. London rain, Emma smiled. Remember the first time we met in the rain? Every day, Thomas said. I remember every day. Good, Emma said. Because that's the day everything changed. For both of us. Forever. And she was right. One moment. One choice. One person stopping to help another. That's all it took to change the world. Not the whole world. Just their world. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything.